touch on something too. You're talking about, differences in generation. I remember when I went to one of my first seminars, going out in front of a group of like 50 people at Models of Pride, which is the LGBTQ youth conference that Friends of Project 10 produces. Sitting in this room, I said, "Hi, I'm Mr. International Daddy Bear 2009. I had these blank stares greeting me. Does anybody know what a bear is, what that means? Nothing. Does anyone know what leather means? Nothing. So this is really important for me.
Yeah.
And I asked the young people in the room who are 20-somethings or younger, tell me what your identification is right now. And what I got back from that group was that they felt they were more age identified. They identified with hip-hop, goth, the things that were not necessarily, to me, LGBTQ identified, but just age appropriate. And I said, that's interesting because when I identify myself, I identify Latin and I'm gay, but you don't seem to feel that's important anymore, those labels. I still do see, you jump in and tell me if I'm wrong or if you see the same thing. I see that your generation, 20-something and under, more closely identified with the trans community, which I think we have a lot to learn from. I don't see them connected to the bear and leather thing anymore. I don't see them connected to the contests and titles. Again, this might be a good thing. Maybe we're evolving. And I see the drag thing, they're connected to that, and the trans thing. What's that all about? Talk to me. Because this was interesting to me, and we just had an International Mr. Leather winner, who was the first trans female to male in a wheelchair who won, and it's creating this huge uproar. And you're seeing the generation things come out, the old guard. So talk to me. Tell me what's going on here.
I'm not really sure, but I guess male and female, most of my friends identify as queer. They just don't want any label. I'm not really sure why we do. We just don't fit into the mainstream's idea of what either or should be.
Why is there this moving away from the bear and leather thing? What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I love bears.
Girl, all right. It's funny too because the one person in the room who did actually step up and say, "I know what a bear is and I love them," was a young black man. And I find the black and Latino communities are more prone to identify a little bit still in the younger groups. But I'm not seeing a lot of identification. I'm seeing the thing about the contests and titles going by the wayside, unless it's connected to art or things like that. And maybe that's a good thing,
Yeah.
Maybe titles and things are kind of the thing that we're evolving into something more mature. What do you think, Heather? I mean, I see your...
Oh, I'm thinking about that question.
But with the bear and does that sound right to you about young people moving away from that?
Well, from my experience, but I wouldn't say I had a lot of experience within, especially identified gay male spaces, and it's more so when it comes to leather and bear events. So I don't know that I could answer that question perfectly, although I know that a couple of the universities that I've been working with have not been doing awards more recently, only because it's something that's a bit dangerous as far as living up to stereotypes. So that may be something that the younger, that the next generation is shying away from to some extent. I don't know. That could be wrong. That could only be in certain pockets.
There's no right or wrong. This is just about opinions. I just want your observations. My observation, let me throw this out. Maybe it makes sense that there's none of it, because the bear and leather thing, it was, I think part of it was established to recognize people who had an older look. Bears are men who look more mature, facial hair, they look a little huskier, they're not young boys. At least that was the appearance.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that kind of crowd is not really something that connects with younger people, though there are young people who like them. But I think it was established as a venue for older people. And the leather thing was about fetishes and kinks. When you get into anything that's sexual, it kind of puts it off limits to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So what's that? Now, how do we address that? We got young people and dealing with issues of sexuality. How well are we doing or not doing with that?
Oh my!
We can connect this with HIV, with meth, with how we veer away from who we allow to speak out about outreach. What we're doing with that? Anything? Jump in.
So much to cover. Wait.
Well, let's start with what do you think about how we're speaking openly about sexuality with young people? What do you think about that? What are the boundaries, and how do you think we're doing?
they should definitely know all they need to know, and I think kids, they still aren't really being safe and taking the precautions that they need to. Like,
Why?
I guess they think it's not a problem anymore. Just like there's a cure for that, you know, but they're not going to give you probably, you know, there's
It's
more
treatable,
people
yeah.
than,
There's no cure for HIV.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
they know that, but they think, do you think they think it's more of a treatable thing like diabetes now?
I guess so, yeah, I don't really understand why.
Yeah, I think that there's a lack of education surrounding like sex positivity. I think there's a lot of talk about sex. I don't think that there's a lot of talk about like being sex positive or body positive, or how to like figure out ways to have safer sex. I think that those conversations, people have to either be like taken into, like sort of happen upon, or like have to go out for themselves to find that information. I also don't think those resources are cheap. So you're going to have a really great like portion of the population that either doesn't want to shell out the money for safer sex materials, or can't afford it. So I think that there's going to be a really, really, really small portion of the population that will actually like have said to use like safer sex materials like on a regular basis. And as far as like HIV goes, I think it's like, it's not, it's definitely a small fear, but I think it sort of went away. You know, I think that's like that's a few decades away problem. Like that's a 1980s epidemic, you know, for younger people that aren't quite aware.
Well, as an HIV testing counselor, I can tell you a couple of things that I've seen that really are upsetting. I'm seeing a lot younger people testing positive for more frequency.
Yeah.
The people who are testing positive when I was doing the testing are a lot of the younger generation. And it's obvious to me from those results that younger people, and also forget about HIV, the teen pregnancy rate, the young people are having sex and they are sexually active. So I'm wondering why this taboo to avoid talking about it. If they're actively involved and they have questions,
Yeah,
we need to answer and address that, I think.
definitely.
It doesn't seem like, you know, with all the advances we've made, I'm wondering how open do you think we are with talking to young people? I know personally from my own experience, there's been this wall about whenever you're dealing with young people, you can talk about sex, but you can't be too graphic, you can't talk
Yeah.
about certain things. How effective does that make for us to reach people when we do that?
It makes it really tough.
It does.
Because then you don't want a lawsuit on your hands of like coming on to, you know, a minor.
Well, we have to work on that.